We just saw the hockey game between Canada and USA.
You can chuck it, Brandon Hagel.
For you being an American and coaching the Canadian team, during all this political stuff happening right now, how comfortable are you with this?
We had a fight 2 seconds in, another one 1 second later. Now in the center of the action, it's Colt Parayko and JT Miller.
As an American, I'd like to address the 51st state discourse, which I find unsettling and frankly insulting. Look, Canada, it's a place that I've learned as the national team coach where people really believe that their differences make them stronger. And I found a place where that embodies for me the ideals and morals of what not just football and a team is, but what life is. And that's integrity, respect, and the belief that good people can do great things together. As an American, I'm ashamed, right, of the arrogance and disregard that we've shown one of our historically oldest, strongest, and most loyal allies. On the pitch, everything we do, it's intention, it's belief, it's support, it's demand. That's the next steps that we need to take. Be ready to sprint, right? Then the second ball gets played and we have fucking 4 guys jogging. Sprint to get there, sprint to get back. This is a fucking sprinting exercise, not jogging. I say in Canada that 2026 has to provide opportunities for our young, talented players and coaches to achieve in this sport. So this is why I'm here.
There is amazing greatness amongst every single person here. And I know we all want to just say thank you guys because you're playing the game. The game's about players, and we couldn't be more proud.
After I kicked David, I went to him the next day and I said to him, look, I need to apologize. And he said, look, I also, didn't mean to incite you. I said, yeah, but I shouldn't have kicked you like that.
Great connection you guys feel for each other and how much you love each other. It's gotta matter in times like this.
This is the platform to build something special. It has to do with maximizing potential. They have to be their best and be good and be strong and be a good father and be a good teammate and be a good son and be a good brother to make sure that in their lives, they want to be the best that they can possibly be and what that means to football.
Marca Personal visitamos a los personajes más relevantes de nuestro fútbol para que nos cuenten más allá de la cancha qué los mueve y qué los trajo hasta aquí. Los Ángeles es la primera parada de este viaje que me llevará junto a mi pizarra a seguir a Jesse Marsch, seleccionador de Canadá, en esta edición de la CONCACAF Nations League.
Jesse, thanks for your time.
Yes, good to be here. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How are you?
I'm good, good.
How's it been so far, nearly 1 year in front of the Canadian national team?
There's been a lot of challenges, but a lot of early rewards. I think there's been an appreciation in Canada for the team and the way that the team is playing, and a lot of that even was established before I came. I could tell early on that we were going to have a good team. I didn't think it would be so successful so quickly. It's a really special group of players that are really committed to the national team and are also very talented.
Why Canada?
Yeah, it's a good question. At the beginning, I knew that the players were talented and could fit the idea I have of football. So I like the potential of what we could achieve with the team. But then I also met Kevin Blue, who's the Secretary General of the CSA. And he's one of the best business professionals that I've ever seen. And I knew that the sport in the country and the CSA, that it still lacks infrastructure and real support. But I believed that with Kevin and myself together as a team, that we could help build it the right way.
How would you explain the growth that the national team has experienced for the last few years?
Well, look, as disjointed as some things are in the country with the sport, there's a lot of good that's been done just by looking at the player pool, right? And you can see there's some very talented players. For me, it's about using 2026 as a real platform to make sure that the sport never looks back, that the youth teams are better funded, that there's more experience for development, that we push younger players in the country, that we have an opportunity to build the CPL the right way, that we continue to push the MLS teams. And obviously that I know my main job is that we have to win in 2026. Like at home, we have to perform well, we have to find ways to get wins, and we have to make sure we get out of the group. But I do believe that all of this will be a product of the work that gets done together to create a movement, so that when the whistle blows in Toronto on that first match day, that the feeling of being invincible on the pitch is so massive that it wills us to victory.
Everyone talks a lot about the 2026 World Cup as the main goal, but in the middle you found Copa America, now the Final Four of the Nations League that's going to be played here. Then you have the Gold Cup in the next summer. What does it mean, these few steps you are working in the way?
I think that we have an expectation that we can win this, you know, and the best part is I don't have to sit in front of the players and tell them. They know. Right? They've developed a self-belief, partly by the progression of what they've achieved with the national team over the last 5 years, but also you look at our players now, and a lot of them are playing at big clubs, playing in Champions League, playing in Europa League, playing in big tournaments and big stages, and performing really well.
But the challenge, the goal is to win everything you play. It's not like just preparing for the World Cup.
What's the scenario? Would I rather do well in the World Cup or win the Nations League? 100% the World Cup. So I've said we can't skip steps along the way. We have to make sure that we continue to play the kind of football we want to play and understand what it means for different opponents and in different environments.
What does it mean to play Mexico here in a month?
Yeah, it's a big challenge. I really like Javier Aguirre, and I think he's doing a great job with the national team. I would argue that there's still very high-level football in Mexico, and certainly in the league and in the national team, but that the U.S. has started to explode more, that Canada has started to catch up, that what Thomas Christensen has done with Panama means that the competition in CONCACAF, for me, is the best it's ever been. And I think it's good for all of us to kind of have a measuring stick against each other and see. I know that the Mexican-United States rivalry is so big, and we believe that we can enter into that conversation, but the only way to do it is through performances and results. In the end, I think the goal for all of us should be to make sure that our region in 2026 performs the best that we ever have, that all the teams can get out of the group, that they can challenge big opponents in Europe and South America, and that we can show the quality of the game and how much it's grown in Mexico and Canada and the US.
You spend a lot of time in Europe. How do they see us from there, our area?
I think they know that there are good players and good teams in CONCACAF. They will often mock the qualification process because they don't think or they don't know how difficult it can be to go to Honduras, to go to Panama, to go to Jamaica, to go to Guatemala. They take those competitions lightly, but they have never been in those kinds of environments and don't know what it takes. I think we have a real pride here about the grit, the competitiveness, the will of teams, the national pride. Like, this is on display. This is on display in our region, and I think it's what makes this game great here.
How did your life change for the last year, changing from the coaching, the day by day in a team, and now working in a national team?
Look, I have more time to reflect on what's going on with the team.
You know, I have more time to think carefully about what are the next steps we need to take in order to honor a real development path. And you believe that you're doing that in a club environment and you try to the best of your ability, but sometimes the matches are coming at you so fast that you don't even have enough time to really process what's happening with the team, and your concentration is on the next opponent. Now you can look at things a little step back, look at things more globally, try to assess the overall progress of the group, try to evaluate some younger and newer players that you can integrate into the project, and find a way, I think, to honor exactly what needs to be done on a daily basis when you're together. I think working with this Canada team has been my best experience of football.
I think your third game, your first official game was against Argentina at the start of the Copa America. After the game, not thinking about the result, but what was your feeling seeing the way the team played that game?
I was proud of them for not playing afraid, for going against the best team in the world and showing that they believe they belong there. And I was also really happy that they weren't satisfied. You know, it wasn't like we got to the dressing room and they were like, okay guys, good game. They felt they could have won that, you know, and I think over every match that we had such difficult opponents. But actually the level of opponent gave me the opportunity to challenge the standards and demands at how we wanted to play. I don't train the team to be mediocre. Yeah. I'm training them within mind of what the games are like at the highest level. We have the potential to be great, we do, but we have a lot of work to do yet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hoy estamos en Niagara Falls, a unos 100 kilómetros de Toronto, para visitar a Jesse Marsch, un técnico estadounidense que ya hizo historia dirigiendo en UEFA Champions League y ahora quiere hacer lo mismo con la selección de Canadá. Jesse, I told you we were gonna follow you everywhere.
Yeah.
So we are here now with the tactical board.
Cool.
I don't know if you're gonna use it or not.
Okay.
Who's Jesse Marsch and how football came into your life?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I was 5 years old. I went to visit, I lived in Racine, Wisconsin, and my cousin lived in Chicago, Illinois. And he was a little older than me, he was 7. And so I went, and where I'm from, like my parents were German and Polish, but they never were exposed to football. And in my community, there wasn't much. But I went to my cousin's house and he said, hey, let's go kick the ball in the back. I was like, okay. And so I went, and like for the whole day, it was a Sunday afternoon. And we played, we had a wonderful time. And I went on the ride back, I said to my dad, I was like, hey, I want to play on a soccer team. And my dad was like, okay, how do we do that? So the next day he wound up calling the local YMCA, and then they found out they had you sign up, and then I started playing. And I made a lot of friends through the game, and I had some really good coaches, and I just loved the game. And I was good at it, you know? And it was something where if I just had a ball, I could go in the backyard, I could go on the street, we'd play basketball, then we'd say, okay, let's play a little bit with our feet, and you know, we had a lot of fun. So that's how it started. And there's moments like that where I look and I go, chasing this ball around a pitch has given me so much in my life and so many great experiences, and I've been a part of World Cups, Champions League, biggest leagues in the world, best players, best coaches. Like, I've been lucky, right? And so, and it's like countries and cultures and languages and experiences. So the game is special in the world. It really is. It's a special game, and I think I've benefited a lot from it.
When did you realize that you could live of it, live of football?
I think 1994 changed a lot for Americans in the game.
The World Cup and then the MLS.
The World Cup and then the MLS. So in 1994, I was a sophomore in college at Princeton University, and I went to 6 games during the World Cup. And I watched Marco Echeverri get a red card in the World Cup. I was at the semifinal where Bulgaria played Italy, so I watched Christos Stoichkov. And then 2 years later, I watched the U.S. play. 2 years later, I was with John Harkes.
And playing with Christos Stoichkov also.
I was playing with Marco Echeverri. 5 years later with Christos Stoichkov. And so all of a sudden, I was living my dream, you know. But without the '94 World Cup, we don't have MLS. Without MLS, I don't have a 14-year career of football. Without a 14-year career in football, I'm not a coach. I don't go to Champions League, Premier League, Bundesliga. I say in Canada that 2026 has to provide opportunities for our young, talented players and coaches to live big dreams and have big goals and have the opportunity to achieve in this sport.
How could you explain that you are not just the national team coach, or your job is not just like this, like doing that, like the team plays well and competes, but also trying to explain how to improve the game in the country? Is not too much responsibility there?
Well, look, it means different things for different places, okay? So I spent a lot of time with Javier Aguirre in LA, and he's a wonderful man, and he was really open, and so we had a lot of good conversations about his experiences in Europe, his experiences in Liga MX, and then what he's now dealing with the national team. And for him, he only has to focus on the first national team. He knows that the pressure for him in 2026, for that summer, for that country, for those fans, is massive. And that's all that he can think about, because anything else he can't dedicate energy to. For me, the responsibility of a home World Cup in Canada, I know my number one job and my most important job is to prepare the team to perform at the World Cup. If we don't perform well at the World Cup, everyone will think I'm a failure. I understand this. But I really believe that this is an opportunity to develop something here and to develop the game, to help continue to unify the game, to invest in Canadian players, to invest in Canadian coaches, to really help the game grow, the youth game grow, the youth CSA, the youth national teams for the men and the women and the boys and the girls. We need so much reinforcement, we need so much investment. And so I care about this. I'm enjoying this project. I'm enjoying the responsibility of being the national team coach, and I want that to mean that the game is better. I would say it's not really in my job description. It's not in my contract. There's no bonuses or rewards for doing coaching clinics, but I really care about it. He knows it's important. We know it's important.
How did you develop from being a soccer football player at the MLS to what you are right now?
I think that I was a good player, but not a great player. And I wasn't the fastest or strongest guy, but I knew that I was intelligent. And I knew part of my intelligence wasn't just how I played the game, was also knowing that if I could be successful as a pro, that I had to be a good leader and someone who could organize the team and help them and help me play to my strengths, right? So that's how I played. I played in the center of the pitch. I was always a guy who was aware of everything, what was happening with us, what was happening with the opponent, and I was always trying to think through the game because that was my best strength. At about 26, I started taking my badges. I started traveling around the world and watching training and watching games. I started meeting with coaches. I started meeting with players. I started thinking about my playing model. I volunteered with universities, with pro teams, semi-pro teams, youth teams. I mean, I was obsessed, right? And I kind of knew at that point that the rest of my playing career was a research project for me as a coach. I knew my potential as a coach was higher than my potential as a player. And then I played 10 more years, by the way. But all that time was thinking about, all right, how do I want my teams to play? What kind of leader do I want to be? And luckily I had people around me that believed in me in that way. Bob Bradley, he made me assistant with the national team right away. You know, I got a job pretty quickly at a young age in MLS.
How different was what you imagined when you played here and when you made that step and you had to start
was when I played, all I thought about was winning. I wanted to win. You know, if you split up in training and said, okay, there's a team of 5, there's a team of 5, and there's a team of 5, and these are my teammates, I'm like, I'm gonna kill them, I'm gonna win. Really. And then match day, I wasn't a guy who was friends with all the opponent. I didn't want to be friends with them. I didn't care. I wanted to win, right? And so I developed a reputation for being somewhat of a jerk because I was such a competitor. When I became a coach, I had to rethink about how to be a leader. I had to shape differently what I thought success was. And if I only thought about winning, then I wasn't going to be able to coach the individuals within the team the right way. I knew I could be a mentor, but I thought it would be a mentor of the game. But the more that I invested in what I wanted to be as a coach, the more I became emotionally attached to the people and the players in the team. And I think probably that's become one of my greatest strengths, is my ability to really relate with people. And through the relationships, through creating a trustful relationship, then now setting standards and challenging people to be the best that they can be, all the time, them knowing that I'm doing it because I care about them.
You were saying you were never friends with the opponent. You're friends with David Beckham today?
Yes. So after I kicked David, so first of all, right after I kicked him and he got up and came in my face, I had that feeling like when you're on a roller coaster. You know, like, oh, what did I just do?
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
so
oh,
much
no,
feeling, yeah.
yes. I felt bad about it, not because of the competitive element or that I felt bad because I was really appreciative of him coming to MLS. And I always appreciated his mentality with the player that he was when he played in Europe. I followed his career and I knew that he could help the game in our sport, in our league, in our country. And so I went to him the next day and I said to him, look, I need to apologize. And he knew too, he kind of slapped me a little bit and he said, look, I also, didn't mean to incite you. I said, yeah, but I shouldn't have kicked you like that.
Bob Bradley, what does he mean to you, to your career as a player and as a coach too?
Look, I had good coaches growing up, but when I met Bob, which was he then recruited me to go to Princeton. Princeton's one of the best universities in the country, but I went to Princeton because of Bob. This was somebody who was very serious, very intelligent, and different than anything I'd ever seen. And that's what he provided me, is he provided me with the opportunity to really understand what is possible inside the game. You know, the behaviors, the mentality, the training. He provided me with the opportunity to do that and challenge me. He was hardest on me when I was playing my best. You know, and there were days where I was like, will it ever come to a rest? But I needed that. It's what I thrived in, was that kind of environment where the minute I thought I was good, like he would tell me how I needed to do so much more.
When you started coaching, would you ever imagine you would be the American, the first from the States to coach in the Champions League?
I dreamed of living in Europe so I could watch Champions League at night.
not in the afternoon.
I had no
midday.
false hopes of being a player in Champions League, and certainly not of being a coach. It wasn't possible. I loved the Germans, the way they thought about football. I loved the people inside of Red Bull, the way they taught it, the way they challenged it, the tactical model. This gave me the opportunity to not just have a team and coach a team, but to be part of a team. And that's still, for me, what I love the most is not, I don't need to be the boss. That's why I've gone from head coach to assistant. I just want to be around teams where I feel like everybody feels motivated by the common goal and we can commit to it all the way and have success through that.
This is the best seat on the house, no? Because you have everything in front of you. To be here before a game and listening to that anthem.
Well, look, the higher levels I went, the more stress is introduced into your environment, right? The more demand there is for you to be able to talk to the media, to have relationships with the fans, to work with academies, to work with players and teams and coaches, and then compete against the best. Like, the demands were big. But for me, getting to the whistle here, where now you had the feeling of a full stadium in the best leagues and in the best tournaments in the world against great players with great players, this is why I do this, right? Is that feeling, that opportunity, that test, because it's a test every time, right? Have you prepared your team enough to be ready for the test, and then can you be successful in the test? That's what drives me, and that's what excites me, and that's when I feel at home.
So you get to enjoy it, really?
It's painful. In the Premier League, like sometimes in other leagues, you play before the match and maybe you have an opinion of the other coach or the team, or you don't like them necessarily, but you try to still be respectful. In the Premier League, there was a shared misery among all the managers. So whoever we were playing against before the game, you would go shake their hand and say, how are you doing? And that person would look at you and go, terrible. And I would go, look back at them and go, me too. This is awful, but this is great. Good luck. You know, you have the pressure of representing the fan base and competing at that level, especially when you're on the lower end of the spectrum, that it's a big challenge. But I love the challenge, right? But it was miserable. My leadership, I believe in positivity. I believe in encouragement. I believe in helping people grow inside environments so that it means something on match day, right? And giving them the clues as to who they are, how they fit in a team, how they fit in a tactical model, and how to execute, all with the vision of what the opponent is presenting, and most importantly, who we are. That's the goal, is to build that and make it more complex, but make it as simple as possible. It's a big demand. It's made me better as a person and as a coach.
Johnny!
We all know what Marcelo Bielsa means in world football. Yeah. But how hard is it to get to a team after a few years working with Marcelo Bielsa, with all his methods? And
yeah, I mean, there were some things that were difficult to manage, and then there were some things that were easy to manage. The difficult parts were that he had built a very specific way. I had to try to take the things that he had done well, but transform them into something that I thought could be successful for that group. And then he was a cult hero in the fan base. And whoever came after Marcelo was never going to live up to the reputation and feelings that they had. So the easy things were that he's very demanding on his team, right? In every way you can imagine. And the team had gotten worn down. I could come in and provide a positive way of still working, a demanding way, and setting very high standards in a different way, but I could release the players a little bit and their personality within the team, and they were ready to respond to that. And that's the case with, sometimes certain things I do with a team, the next coach that comes in can benefit because he's a little bit different, and this is what it's like when you're a coach and you take over teams. You have to figure out what was good, what was not good, or what was too much, what was too little, and then in your own way find a way to evolve the team into something that you think can be successful.
With all the passion you talk about your job and about everything you do, how you cope to be that, the person you are doing your job, and apart from that, being a father of 3?
Yeah. Well, I think that being a father has prepared me to be a coach. Right, because...
So you have 3 kids and then 26 more training every day.
I don't call them my children, but I have a similar type relationship. I try to be a mentor. It's not that I'm their father, but I try to be someone that they can come to. Obviously, challenge your children to be the best that they can be and to do it in a loving home with your wife, and that's its own little team, right? I learned that just because I say and do the right things doesn't mean that my children always respond perfectly. And I had to learn patience and love, and I had to accept that I make mistakes and that they certainly make mistakes from a young age on, but I had to always provide them with a positive environment where they felt that they were loved, that they felt like they could make mistakes, and that they knew kind of who we were and how we behave and how we treat people and how we treat each other, right? That's in many ways a coach. And I learned patience through parenting more than through coaching, because coaching, it's hard. It's hard to be patient, but in coaching, when we make mistakes or we give up goals or we don't perform at our ultimate levels, I take it responsible. I take that personally as I'm not doing enough to provide them with what they need to be their best. And that's the goal, is I need to do that effectively so that they can be free and it can be part of their DNA, and they can understand how to be their best, and they can understand who they are, and they can commit to it at the highest level. Well done, Liam! Come on.
You've been coaching 13 years now?
Maybe.
2011, 2012 with the national team?
Yeah, I guess it would be like 14 years, yeah.
How much did it change the way to approach the players? I mean, societies change, kids change, the way of they get the information change also now.
I think people overplay the generational gaps. For sure, my father and the older guys that I played with, they all thought I was soft and that I didn't work hard enough and that I didn't, I'm no doubt, right? And then it's typical that our generation looks at the lower generation and goes, they don't really know what it takes and they didn't work as hard as we worked. And look, is there maybe some relevance to all of these things? Yes and no, maybe, I don't know. But here's what I do know. As a coach, it's up to me to demand the work ethic. And it's not by just showing up and being the boss and telling them you have to do this, you have to do that. Again, it's by investing in them in people and trying to help them along the way of a relationship within the platform and environment that we create in football, of showing them what that means. But then once we develop a true understanding of what we are and how we're trying to get to common goals, then only demanding more every day. And if they're not meeting the demands, I'm not creating enough pressure in the environment by naturally creating an inner pressure by what the players do and think and treat each other, and how I demand out of the leaders and leave room for leadership around them. But then also how I'm making sure to enforce things every day. And the only way I know how to do that is to invest entirely in them.
So that's the best way to get in their heads most of them.
Yeah.
Because you can work a lot here and try or know everything here, but if you don't convince them.
This is the platform to build something special that almost has nothing to do with football, that has to do with people and has to do with maximizing potential and driving them and the desire that they have to be their best and be good and be strong and be a good father and be a good teammate and be a good son and be a good brother and be a good, all of these things, right? To make sure that in their lives, they want to be the best that they can possibly be and what that means to football.
How much you use this, the tactical board?
Yeah, a lot. This thing follows me too much.
Yeah? You travel all the way with one all the time?
Yeah,
on
we
the
always.
plane,
I mean, we have small, big, medium. And one of the beauties now is in the modern game is the technology of video and what you can accomplish with PowerPoint presentations. And I try in Germany they call them laptop coaches. I try not to be a laptop coach, but the reality is you have to be. I consider when you go out onto the pitch, it's about the work and about the demand, the intensity, right? And putting all these things to practice, but then it's the classroom and it's the tactical board and it's the video, it's the meetings, it's the computer. That's a lot of the teaching.
But being a national team coach, maybe you use it more than being a club coach because you have less time on the ground?
Yes, we certainly do more walkthroughs and more theoretical conversations. Okay. But, even Copa America, one of the beauties of Copa America was we were together more. We did well, so we spent more time together. So we had more time to work through it. But I also, my time in Leeds was the first time I came into a team mid-season, and it was relegation. So I had to be incredibly sharp and precise with my coaching and my communication.
Yeah, you don't have pre-season to work.
No, it was like I had to be precise right away. And we used this a lot, and we used video, and we used vocabulary, and we used style of play videos, and we used clarity away from the pitch before we got on the pitch, and then we really put it to practice.
If we get to a training ground and there is a team playing or in a stadium, there are no badges. But how do we realize that's Jesse Marsch's team?
My team is the team that's more intense, that runs harder, we try to be more organized, we try to put the team under more pressure, we try to be the ones who dictate this pace of the match. That's what we want out of our team.
How is it to be someone from another country going to coach in different countries, trying to learn their culture, trying to be one of them? Now you are living this as a Canadian, maybe American, but living in Canada and being the national team coach with more responsibility. But how is it to get used to this?
Look, I've coached players from 62 different countries. Okay, I've traveled to 82 countries in my life. I've coached in 5 different countries. I've lived in 6 different countries. I've learned languages, I've met people. And what it's done is it's given me a respect for the world that we live in, the global world that we live in. And my lens has been through football, but it's been so much more than that. And one of the things that worries me about the American mentality is the propaganda that we've been taught from day one that America is number one. We're the best country in the world. And what it has produced in many ways is this idea that we should look down on everybody else and that everyone wants to be us. I got news for you. Most of the places I've been in my life, they don't want to be American. They don't want to go to the US. And our international standing has certainly been in question. And by the way, one of the things about being American to me that was so amazing is that American means something different to many different kinds of people. You know, going to inner city friends of mine that were African American and going to their houses and seeing what they eat and what they talk about and what they value, my Latino friends and what they eat and what they think is important, learning about sports, different leagues, different cultures, different languages. Like, I was always intrigued by this. And I think that's why I even love this sport so much and why I pursued it. And so when I see my country now not reflecting that respect, cultural respect, international respect, and I'm not just talking about politics and President Trump, I'm talking about the entire society. When I see that we don't really value that as the way we used to, and I think a lot of it is because people don't travel. I mean, look, I've been privileged to travel that much, to see these things. I worry that we're so American-centric that we've forgotten who we are at the core of it all, which is, by the way, foreigners, okay? And that we've become so bigoted in our version of what we think America is that we're really losing sight of what's most important, which are relationships and people in this world. I don't like seeing Mexico treated the way it's been treated. I've some of my best friends, and I played at Chivas USA, some of my best friends have been Mexicans, Mexican Americans. Whether it was representing Canada, or if I were the Mexican coach, or if I were a coach in England or Germany, or I wanted to honor the culture, I wanted to learn about it, I wanted to stay true to myself, right? I never wanted to acclimate beyond who I am, but I wanted to include what people in those communities think are important into how I do things and interact with them and learn and grow and the job that I do. Certainly when I've seen the way that Canada has been talked about and the disrespect that the community has received, it's made me angry, right? And it's not what America is to me. America, actually, some of my best friends when I went to university were Canadian. Some of the best friends of my life when I was in the United States were Canadian. And I think we need to continue to make sure as Americans that we include that in who we are, in our international standing, and in everything we represent in our country.
What a pleasure, Jesse, to talk to you, not just about what we are passionate about, football and the ball. And
yeah, we didn't even
everything.
talk
No.
enough about this, but it was
life,
good.
Life.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.